gallery. You're in your studio in Keynsham, is that right?
Yeah. So outskirts of Bristol, equal between Bristol and Bath. So yeah, we my partner and I, Sarah, were lucky enough to buy our first house a couple of years ago, and we kind of had our eye on this place because I was able to convert the garage at the bottom of the garden into my studio.
Wow. Yeah, I can see. It looks very nice.
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to just be at home, and my commute down the pathway in the garden is 16 seconds.
Yeah.
I did my first day, I was like, I'm going to time this, and it was 16 seconds. So
It's
and
tough.
the only traffic.
That daily commute is really tough, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the only traffic I had was my dog getting under my feet.
So does that delay it from 16 to 18 seconds?
Well, yeah, she's a boxer, so you've got to jump over it, really.
So a bit of athleticism, yeah. I have a piece of your work, which we got in the Padstow Gallery. We fell in love with the sort of that bright gold rim, actually.
Did you see the exhibition that they've just put on?
No, we were down there in July.
Yeah.
So how did that go?
Fantastic, really. Yeah, Liz Padstow is, I'm not just saying this because I've had a good show there, but one of the best galleries that I deal with. Is, you put all your effort into making this pot, and you find a good price for it, and then you take it to a gallery, and then you're losing a huge commission of it, and that at the beginning of my career I found quite hard to deal with.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
But what I'm going to say on the absolute flip side of that is Liz and Leo, her partner, put in incredible amounts of effort to not only make the gallery a welcoming kind of space, but the brochure they put out for that show is the best one I've ever been part of. Yeah, I don't have a bad word to say about Padstow, and it's the area is very dear to me. I was originally brought up in Tavistock, but I went to Briarn Bay every year with a good friend of mine. We the last time we were there. Unfortunately, we haven't been there this year, which is. Oh no, I think we got to Constantine this year actually, but Sarah, myself, and Cisco just sat there and did a little time lapse on our phone of the sun setting, and it was, there wasn't many other places you really want to be in the world. It was it's a lovely area. So when Liz did ask me to be represented at the gallery, I bet a hand up for more than one reason. Because I love the area. I know it's quite an affluent area with holidaymakers, so that kind of mix as well. One day the goal, and Sarah would agree with me, is to have somewhere down there that we could.
I know that. But, so going back a little bit, how did you do ceramics at school, and how did you become? Do you like to be called a ceramic artist or a potter?
I can sit on the fence and say I'm absolutely in between the two. Because I would just say that I make ceramic art, but I produce it in a pottery, not style, but conventional pottery techniques to make the ceramic art. If I was to make functional ware, I would probably say that I would be a potter. But because they're less functional than, I do make the odd functional item, but the majority of my work is non-functional statement pieces. Not too much to explain. There's not too much of an underlying story. Well, there are stories, but...
You're saying it's going to be a short conversation, are you?
Yeah, we're done. No. But I think it's too... decorative and too tactile and too inviting just to be pottery, but that makes me sound above pottery, which I don't like.
I don't think it's in my mind it's not above or below. It's like there's a craft, and then you need all the skills of the craft, and then there's art, and we could personally I could talk about that all day, art and craft, but
I would 100% agree, because it's something that I've always
find it really interesting, the point.
Yeah.
what's the difference, and
and
if you
where
to bring
put
somebody
themselves.
who's master craftsman or woman in,
Yeah.
and talk about that, which maybe is a good thing to do at some point.
Yeah.
But I was really wondering what your training, how you train.
So yes, that was the original question. So I went to Kelly College in Tavistock, and I did, for my A levels, I did physical education, design technology, and art. So it's very art based, and I was going to apply to a couple of places to do fine art.
So that's interesting. So no ceramics at school at all?
The odd bit.
Okay.
The odd bit with an artist in residence, and you know, when we were quite young at the school, I think my mum and dad still have it. One of the first things I ever made a mug when I was probably about 12 or 13. I think they're hoping it will be worth something, so they kept hold of it. Now that I've done full circle and become you know, a potter or an ceramic artist again. So when I was doing my A levels, my teacher said to me, she said, I think, if I'm brutally honest with you, I think you should go and do a foundation degree in art. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what that is, and could you explain some more? And she basically said, in the simplest form, you will go to college and you will get to try every medium you can think of. So then I went to Plymouth College of Art and Design, did my foundation degree in art and design. So I got to have a go at everything, you know, animation, photography, metalwork, ceramic, glass, textiles, you know. And then the final term, to do your major project, you had to do one. And by that point, I'd got to ceramics. I have always been the kind of guy that I want to be really, really good at one thing, not average at a lot of things. So then my tutors at college kind of said the same thing again. What, you know, I think you should go and do your. Sorry, I said that to them. I said I want to specialize in one thing. I don't want to. So I want to specialize in one thing. And they said, well, at the moment, the best course in the country, or they actually said in Europe, because it was at the time, or I think it still might be, but is Cardiff School of Art and Design for ceramics. And then I went on to Cardiff to do probably the three best years of my life. All kind of, I suppose, looking back at it now, because I graduated 10 years ago, so it's quite poignant that this has come about and talking about it at this time, because my tutor actually said, if you're still in ceramics 5 to 10 years after you graduate, you'll be in it for life.
Well, you can send them a copy of the video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, still doing it.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
still in it.
First year, again, similar to my foundation degree, we had to go at everything, and really honing your skills, as it were. And then on the second year, you got more of you know, project briefing, and you had to you know, stick to a much more, you had to use the skills that you kind of learned in the first year to find your voice, as it were. And then in the third year, it was your final major project was the be all and end all. Like, apart from our dissertation, that was the majority of the grades were on that. So it was a big pressure. It was a lot of work. My third year, believe it or not, was my favorite year out of all of them. My entire course, that year, for my entire course, we got pulled into the glazed room, which was this massive great area with loads of benches on. There was about 32 of us in there. And we didn't realise it, but we were all about to get a big rollicking, because we were just not getting the grades we all were capable of, and we'd extended the first year a bit too far, and we were told to knuckle down. And me and my best mate Ed, we shook each other's hand and we said, right, we're going to get a first next year. And we made a pact to each other that we would go out and we would now be able to have fun, but work hard, you know. And we both did. But I was kind of obsessed with textures, with inklet, and then I suppose it was almost a backwards process. It was like, right, well, I found these textures, but why are they in my mind, and why am I intrigued by them, and why am I wanting to look for other textures and stuff. And so I suppose...
Hang on a minute. So when you say textures in the clay, what do you mean by that?
Well, this is what I love about ceramics. There's so many different possibilities, but all from the same material. So in essence, clay is just clay, isn't it? It's not... it's nothing too special about it, but like when I say textures within it, I mean there are so many ways that you can either add something to it, take something away from it. And what I mean by that is like sand or grog or grit, or you know, you can have this ultra smooth porcelain, but if you chuck a load of sand in it and rip it apart and eat it and push it in different directions and maybe even, you know, apply a load of force, whether that's throwing it or tapping it or pushing it to its limits, the clay will then start to do stuff. And when the clay will start to like, what am I trying to say? The clay will kind of start to, not express itself, because I don't think that's quite the right term of phrase, but it will start to tell you the limits. It will start to say, right, we can do that, but I've just had a piece nearly go very wrong. One's behind me there this afternoon, and I thought I'd taken it too far, and I was adding some slip, some liquid clay. I thought, no, maybe I've got away with this. And then as I was doing it, all started to collapse. And so even now, I'm still kind of learning from the clay. But what I was kind of realizing about where I was getting my inspiration from was actually looking at the textures that I'd produced and thinking, well, right, where have I seen that? So why does that seem familiar to me?
So more than going out and getting inspiration, it was more letting your work inform you about what was inspiring you.
Yeah, is once you know what triggers you, you kind of are alert to a load of other... I mean, the main thing I remember is we had old porter cabins at college. They were our studios, nice and cold in the winter and boiling hot in the summer. But they were, I think they were pebble dashed, or they had a very textural surface on the outside. And I would always remember rubbing my hands down the wall as I walked in and stuff like that. And that's when it started to click. And I was like, well, that kind of looks a bit like the surfaces of my work. And then, and then one thing led to another. And then you go out. We would go for walks or bike rides at uni or whatever. And you'd be like, oh, I like the look of that tree. And then you think, well, that's actually very similar to my crackled style of pot. And so I suppose recently, I haven't been looking into so much as different textures now as different colors, and but that'll be probably another story. But I do, you know, there was a period where I was doing some highly textured stuff that I kind of felt it went too far. And I was getting a lot of failure rates. I was getting a lot of the clay, because I used two or three different clays on top of each other.
So what clay did you use?
So I used a grog stoneware, which is called B17C, which is just a pretty standard stoneware, nice to throw with clay. And then I used royal porcelain over the top, which I normally...
right over the top.
So I slack it down, basically, which means I turn it into a slip, which is liquid clay, and then use it to apply over the top. So I'll just grab a piece. When it's at this stage, you can see the difference. So you can see how the clay is made from a certain like grog kind of grey clay, and then the white is the slip.
So what is stoneware clay?
Stoneware clay is basically the grey beige, what you can see there. And by stoneware, I mean it can be taken up to stoneware temperature is normally about 1120 up to maybe 1300, 1310.
Okay, and where degrees. Does it come from? Do you know where it is actually dug from or comes from?
I don't know where this one is actually. I don't know where this clay's from. It's a Valentine's clay, so I don't know where they would get it from. but there's a lot of dug down in Cornwall, and
Okay.
you know, so I'm hoping it's from there, but it might not be. And then the slip on the top is the porcelain. So
wow. Okay. So how does that adhere to the clay underneath?
this is the bit I was talking about earlier about having slight failure rates when I was pushing it too far. You're basically stoneware, my stoneware there, clay, the body shrinks about 10%. So when you fire ceramics, once it loses all its chemically attached water and it fires high, it shrinks.
Right.
And on average, in a stoneware clay, on average, it is roughly about 10%.
So do you fire it on its own as stoneware before you add the slip, the porcelain slip, or do they go together?
They go together. Okay. The reason being, the porcelain slip shrinks at almost 17%. Right. So that's why on my crazed pieces, you're getting this really nice mismatch of shrinkage rates, meaning one shrinks more than the other, and so causes the crazing. Now, if you put that on too thick, it will craze and it will just peel off, like like an orange. If you take, or a satsuma or something, if you take the skin off of that, it would peel like that. And then if you put it on too wet, you won't get the crazing at all.
Right.
So I've got a piece here actually.
It is a fine line.
This has actually been fired to bisque, so you can hear it's actually ceramic. But if you can see it, up close? It's got the crazing from the other clay.
Yeah.
So that's because the top layer is shrunk more than the bottom layer.
Okay.
So now that is waiting to get glazed, and it will go back in for a stoneware firing.
Right. So how many times will you fire them?
3.
3 times.
So the first one is to turn it from clay to ceramic. So it goes to about 1,000 degrees C, but it's still porous, so it will accept the glaze. Then the next process is to actually glaze the piece, and then that will go back in the kiln. And then I fire mine to about 1,280 degrees.
And that's still being porous, does it, at that point?
That's it. Clay vitrifies then at those
at that temperature.
Yeah. So you can take it higher. It depends what your glaze can take. So some guys, if they reduction fire, might take it up to beyond 1,300. It just depends what glaze you're using and what you found works for you, really. Then they'll come out and I will apply the luster, and then they'll have a final third firing at a much lower temperature, about 750.
And what is the luster?
Luster, yeah. So that's how I apply the gold and platinum and the copper.
That's actual gold, is it?
Yeah.
Ooh, so we've got one with the gold on. That's actual gold.
Yeah. So luster is a liquid, and it is gold particles suspended in a solvent. So I have to wear a big respirator when I apply it, so that it doesn't, I don't inhale it and stuff. So wearing masks for lockdown and going out in public hasn't really been an unusual thing for me. So I go out in this normally. Yeah, I don't go out in that one.
Try not to go into the co-op in that. It might alarm.
Might get arrested, I think.
Yeah, hold up. But you know, with your distinctive ones with the gold drip, it looks like a dribble effect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's on a green base, which is a new colour, but it gives you the idea.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah. So how do you manage to control the dribble?
So there is some bits that I'm probably not going to say. Trade secret, as it were.
Right. Yes. What can you reveal about your dribbling technique?
The theory behind it isn't difficult, of applying the luster. It is you apply luster with a paintbrush. So that's all I'm going to say. I would probably say that the application of the luster is one of the hardest processes for me to get right. And I feel where over the last 10 years, I've kind of got that to a point that I'm happy with it.
And it's a very distinctive part of your work, isn't it? And I know it's what drew us immediately to it.
I mean, it is a bit of Marmite for some people. You know, a bit of bling is for some people is far, you know, too much, and for others,
yeah, we love
yes. I don't wear much jewelry, but I do. I've got a big like rose gold watch which I love, which is probably I bought probably because I'm inspired by the stuff behind me. But and my wedding ring to be is it's actually just titanium, I think, but it's got rose gold on the inside and stuff. So I've got kind of I do like a bit of bling, but you know, it does catch your eye, and you know you can't. And that's I don't think that's me being big-headed saying that about my own work.
Oh, no, it does. No, it does. Like
it's almost a fact.
It's like across a crowded room kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's gold.
So the latest avenue of which I'm going down is my fiancée Sarah's idea, and it's more to do with the interior design kind of area of my work. But have you heard of the colour scheme Pantone?
Yeah.
So each year they bring out a Pantone colour. And for the next X amount of years, I'm going to produce a range for that 1 year of and try and match it as close as I can to the Pantone colour of the year. And then after maybe 10 years, I might try and hold a exhibition of all and keep some at the end of each year and have an exhibition of all the different colours together.
Right. So I usually end by asking some shorts. I can need my glass for this. Anyway, here we go. What's more important to you? I think I know the answer to this. Touch or colour? Touch. Okay. What is your favourite colour?
I'd say my favourite colour is probably blue.
Favourite slip or oxide, or you know?
My favourite slip is this texture, the mottled texture, and then the cobalt blue, which is that one.
Okay. And the cobalt blue is an oxide, is it?
Yeah, that's an oxide, whereas that bright blue is a stain.
So what's your favourite clay or medium to work in?
Well, I throw in the stoneware, so I would say that, because I work with the porcelain as well, but that is notoriously hard to throw with. And it's not because I can't, it's just the effects that I'm going for, and I mentioned it earlier about the shrinkage rates, is that I need that body of the clay to shrink less than the top. So yeah, I would say the stoneware, the grog stoneware clay.
Okay. Favorite sculpting tool?
Ooh. So when I throw quite heavy, and then I will use turning tools to take away excess clay and refine the shape. So I would say I'll just grab a few here. Any of these are my hoop turning tools, so you can see they've all got different profiles on.
Oh wow, yeah. Have you got a favourite out of those?
Yeah, where is it?
If you have to pick one.
Yeah, so I do have to buy these quite regularly because they basically because they're actually quite thin.
Yeah.
Can you see how on it kind of wears away?
Do you like working big or small?
Good question. I prefer the challenge of making large work.
And by large, how large do you mean?
Well, I fill the kiln, so we're talking 80 centimeters.
Oh wow.
So yeah, big stuff. So I throw them in sections. So I'll throw a piece, and then I'll put a coil of clay on, make sure that's adhered on properly, and then I'll throw again.
Sketchbook and planning, or develop as it goes and intuitive?
Used to be sketchbook at university because that's what got you the grades, but no, as soon as I left university, I haven't touched a sketchbook since. I must
throw the sketchbook away.
Yeah, I do feel I need to, because I think it is quite a helpful tool, but no. What was the second one? What you said?
Develop as it goes and intuitive.
Yeah, because with clay, if it's not fired, you can just chuck it in a bucket and use again. So you've got this perfect material where it is just it's just meant for experimentation, because if it doesn't work, it goes back in the slot bucket and you can use it again. What
do you think about when you're throwing?
Not much, probably. Brutally honest, at the moment, and I know this is going to be a one-word answer, but for the last possibly 6 months leading up to the 2nd of August, when our wedding was meant to be, I've been thinking about my speech a lot. and little things
Yeah.
that I say or things I shouldn't say. How emotional do you go? You don't want everyone in tears, but you know.
Well, yes, and you especially. Yes.
Yeah, so that's been in the back of my mind a lot, actually. It's probably only taken me speaking to you to realise that.
So now you've got to plan it all over again.
Well, yeah, I think I can think about something else for another few months now.
You've got a reprieve. If you weren't a ceramic artist, what would you be?
Realistically, or what would I like to be?
What would you like to be? Anything, yeah.
So when I was at school, I used to play the drums and be in the rugby team and play for Devon. So I would have loved to be in either a rugby player or a drummer. But
or a drumming rugby player.
Or a drumming rugby player that makes pots, you know. So
or a potty drumming rugby player. Yeah.
any of the above, yeah. I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah.
I don't think I think I only had the talent to do one, and I think I'm doing it. So
It might be, yes. Yeah, good one.
I still got the drum kit. It's in the loft. So.
And last one, what does being able to make art mean to you?
It means, well, it means everything really. And I know that's a very cliched thing to say, but it just means I don't feel like I'm at work when I'm at work. And I'm very lucky to be able to be making a living out of something that, one, I'm good at, and two, I enjoy. Just lucky to be able to do what I do, but there is still an element of it is a job. And it is still work, and you still have to put in the time, the hours, the money. And so everyone's saying, "Well, you've got a fantastic job. I wish you know, you've got the potter's lifestyle, or you've got this, or you've got that." And you think, "Well, yeah, it is great, and I can come and go as I please." And but you might be worried at the end of the month because you haven't had a good one, or you've got so much coming up at once. I find that my work always tends to come in all at the same damn time. It doesn't want to spread itself out through the year. It's just, even if it's a quiet period normally.
That seems to be the same for absolutely everyone who's self-employed, whatever they do, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They can't take a holiday because it's sort of they get a big commission. Yeah.
I'm just grateful that I can do what I enjoy and that I'm good at, and I can pay the mortgage with it, and I can enjoy life, and yeah.
Thank you very much.